Hello, Blazor friends, and welcome to another Blazor Power Hour. So, the last couple of weeks, we've been building a solar power Blazor dashboard with some real live data from Lance's solar power array. And we should probably just jump right into sharing the app and some code.
Okay, this might look different to everyone. It's because this week my fingers were getting itchy. We moved our focus to the data grid page. So while Ed and Justin work their magic on that, I thought I'd come in here and just add some tiles, add some of the other data points that we're getting from the broker, and we are connected. So what I did, the first thing I did, you'll notice that 1 hour drop down. So the live values, the drop downs at the top left next to the auto refresh. The what that does is it basically sets how far back we get the data for the charts. This first set of the first row of tiles you see there, um, those are still live values. It's always the latest value that comes in for that. It's like the most recent one. But I wanted to be able to visualize, like, oh, what's it look like for the past week or the past month? Month was a little too much data, but we have like 1 hour, 12 hours, 24 hours, that kind of selection. Because it hasn't been running it for a while, there's that gap there. You'll have a gap, but as it's running, it'll pick up some more data and show it a little better.
I like this chart in the bottom right-hand corner. What type of chart is this?
It is an area series,
Area
and the
series.
only thing that was showing there is the battery level over time. So we can see, like, for example, the past 24 hours, how it'll dip overnight and then get charged back up throughout the day.
I think we might have a little bit of a label binding issue or something. It's a 000 all the way.
So for that, yeah, let's take a look at the code of that real quick. This was an interesting exercise for me. Normally, I can do custom labels by using the string format, but for this one, I needed to use JavaScript method. So scroll to the very bottom, and you'll see a JavaScript function for the label. Right there, it says chart category acts as label template. And that's the way the doc showed me how to give me the exact value I wanted because I couldn't use a custom string format in the actual series itself.
So where to draw these charts, we need to use some JavaScript interrupt because they use Canvas. So that's probably where that is coming from. But
And you're probably seeing zeros right now because you don't have enough historical data yet.
okay.
I think as the data comes in, we'll probably see better as it comes in. But that's pretty much the gist of everything I did. I just spent an afternoon adding the other stuff. If you go back to the running website, you'll see I have a voltages tile item. Voltages are important. And also some settings. Yeah, let's look at the web page itself. And we have an info one on the right that tells us what the charger priority is and what the inverter mode is. Those are things that are important because as the day goes, yeah, as you go through the day, you might have automatic logic in the inverter that says, oh, if it's daytime, I want you to use the solar panels to charge the battery. But if it's nighttime, I want you to use the grid in case of an emergency. These are things you have in your inverter.
Like it. It's looking good. It's looking really good.
All right.
Like
And
the
that's pretty much it.
like the use of emojis in here, just they work so well. It's like free graphics for your dashboard.
And it's, yeah, I just used the good old start, the Windows start key and the period key, and you get the emoji picker. And it took a little while to figure out which ones to choose. It was a tough choice.
And then if we jump over to the history pages where we left off last week, so we
Yep.
jumped through some hoops to make this more efficient, but I think it was worth it because pulling data out of the database. So we've got 8,000 items right now. This is running live in the background, so that's going to keep increasing. Let's see if I refresh. It's up to 1,000 now. So it's like 1,000 per probably every 5 minutes or something is going to jump up by 1,000. I think must have cleared the database out or something. I think we were up to like 80,000 last show. Must have reset it when I pulled the GitHub repo down.
Or your range is only 1 day too. That's the last thing
Oh,
I
the
remember you.
range. Okay, the range is
Yeah.
up here. All right, that's what it is. Let's see. We're second. We've been collecting data since last week. Let's just jump this thing back like a month, and it should update. And October. Why is the date picker acting like that? It should show dates when I zoom in. It's not. Did we change that to be month only?
I don't think so.
I
I
remember
know that it
setting a
wasn't
month
perfect.
filter on there.
Yeah, it's just doing some filter changes. And then originally you're going to put it in the column header, but because we wanted the range, you moved it up top.
And we've got 89,000 items, and it's coming back nice and snappy. That's good.
Gotta love paging.
Yeah.
Oh. I wrote this code once that automatically, I even made it part of my library that it's an observable collection that can automatically fetch the next page for you, similar to how the data source works. But you don't usually have that option in a non-web app. So folks sometimes want infinite scrolling, and that collection will do that for you. The problem I have with this right now is that how useful is this grid, right? How can we make this more useful? Like, should we create another class instead of using the MQTT data item and have a more clear topic? Because if we go to group it or sort it, it kind of uses that entire topic string.
Just trying to see what's going on with the date range picker real quick.
So we should fix that first for sure.
There it is. Yeah. There was a setting that told it to use a month zoom instead of going day by day. So you could set these up to be like, I could set it to a default of pick a year end to end, or pick a month, or pick days. And it was set to pick months. So we couldn't, I mean, you could always go back up a level when you have day set. You can go up to month, you can go up to year, and so on. But once you set the other setting, you can't go back and drill down. So just removing that fixed it. I think that was from a sample we copied the date range picker from. So that got pasted in. All right. So where do we want to go with this?
So yeah, let's go back to the web page, right? Imagine you are coming here to look at this data to, let's say you want to know what the power saving has been or serial number has been. If you try to group by the topic column, look what happens. Oh wait, it is working now? Or collapse the current state group and see what we get for the
Okay,
next.
everything.
That's what I mean.
It's pages and pages of the same thing.
So I mean, how is it one group?
Yeah, that's
Is it
interesting.
so that's what I was thinking. Maybe we're gonna have like a DTO. Oh wait.
Time.
Oh,
Oh,
that's by
that's
timestamp.
it's got time in there. It's probably to the second, so it's not gonna work either. Not value. So value is working because they're different values that we can clearly see.
Yeah. So I was thinking that we don't necessarily need that entire topic. What we really would want to group by is, you know how I made that helper enum that converts this string to an enum?
Yeah.
It's those enum values that we want to group by. So would it be against best practices in Blazor to create like another wrapper class? Not a wrapper class because it's not going to inherit from this, but at least a class that we can populate. No, because then the data object in Entity Framework is not of that type.
We could create like a read-only property on the data. the data object.
Or can we customize the grouping to use a link query where we can chop up the string?
I have to look at the grouping functionality. I'm not sure. I haven't done that
Yeah,
specific
let's take a
thing,
look.
but I would probably just project it into a grid view model.
Yep.
And
Then how do we do paging at that point? Because it's not a data source.
right, so we've got grid grouping and
Ooh.
then grouping documentation.
An aggregate might show us some of that logic.
This
Not
is all
really, because
numerical, I think. Average count, min, sum.
then maybe it's the code group from code. Yeah. Groupable false. Here we go. Set grid groups, and then do a group descriptor member type. It's not the descriptor type we want. Usually there's a function in the custom grouping stuff I've done before. You don't set the member name, and instead you get a function and you return the result from the function. But I don't know if the Blazor grid supports that yet.
I mean, set grid groups is just a task. So that's not a function on its own.
What is the group descriptor? Server grouping. It is right there. You just passed it.
Oh,
Scroll
did I?
down a little bit. Yeah. Back up. Right there. So yeah, group descriptors dot group descriptor.
Member.
It would be something different. So it would be a delegate group descriptor instead of just group descriptor. If I don't see that there, then we don't do it yet. Okay. What's another way we could handle that?
Hmm.
Group event.
Server grouping. This is back to manual data source operations, which is what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth implementing a completely custom CRUD life cycle.
No. But let's see what we can do here. So when we get the data for this, let's go to history CS. We are getting MQTT data chart item. Is that? Nope, that's home net razor. I want history. Let's get our solution up. Yeah, it's a list of MQTT data item.
Yeah.
We're calling
Get measurements async. Yeah.
measurements
So we're getting the query right back with the data source result. Yep. This is where I see the hiccup with trying to
Yeah,
do a view model class or a wrapper, right?
yeah, because it's not going to work with the filter descriptors.
Yeah. Maybe it's just we can do a template on the cell that strips that part of the string out. Or it just might be that there are so many items we're not seeing the other groups.
I think that's the key to it. There's so many items we're
Yeah.
not seeing the other group. Because there are a lot of that item. If we group this again.
Okay. Then
So
what we can do instead is instead of getting all of the items for that time range, we can sample it. So for every 10 items, take one.
yeah, this is kind of odd though, because if I reverse the sort, I still get the same results. I would think if it was too many items,
Right.
reversing it would give me a difference.
But we are talking about 12,000 items.
True.
I think we would need to do some sort of server side grouping to make sure that comes back right.
Yeah. Hmm.
And so these batches, to understand the kind of data that we're getting here, is every 1 second there's a batch of things that come in. So each one of these topics, let's say there are 5 topics, they're really around 12 or so. Every 1 second, there are 5 things. 1 second. 1 second. So that's 60 times a minute, right? And then you imagine why this is building up so fast in the database. In real world, usefulness of this is once a minute, except for the live stuff, which you can do, like the live values at the top. If we're saving stuff to the database, once every 30 seconds or once every 1 minute is okay. Problem why I haven't done this yet here is because not all topics come in every burst. So not every 12 item comes in every 1 second. So you can kind of weigh the value in the wrong direction by sampling incorrectly. Oh, I know why. Is it only looking at that last? Oh no, there you go. There's PV voltage too. That was weird.
Yeah. So I said I was surprised to see that the sorting didn't have any bearing on this.
Oh, you're filtering by PV voltage. That's why.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm only getting 1 and 2. If I take that off, should be able to. Okay, so sorting works there. Doesn't seem to work when I'm grouping for some reason.
Because it makes sense. In order for you to group, you can't page. You have to tell the server, I want all of these items. The server Entity Framework has to ask the database for all of its items and then group. Whereas
Yeah.
sorting, you can just say, get me the next item.
All right. What do we want to do with this view now that we actually get done in one show?
Yeah, I mean, we're
Um,
kind of at the end. This is just some extra little sweet barbecue sauce on top of, the dinner. And the main page is the big deal, right? That's where we want to see
yeah.
the live values and want to see the recent history of a couple important items.
Oh, our
And there
battery
we
level
go.
is better there.
Yep. And
Number
now the numbers are better. Yeah.
nice. Let's see. What can we do with this today to make this better? I don't think grouping is helping much here. For the short term, I'd probably just disable it until we can come up with a better solution for it. But that's easy to turn off. We've got 3 points of data here. We got the timestamp, topic, and value. Is that all that comes back that we want to show?
I think there are more properties. Go do inspect on that object, the MQTT data item. Okay, no.
That's about it.
Yep.
It's pretty simple.
So what else from UI for Blazor you think would work on that page? It doesn't necessarily have to be with the data grid, right? Because if I was using this, I would definitely filter, right? I would filter by what I wanted and then I would see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nice to come up with something that's better than this huge string, but I'm not quite sure how to do that without breaking all the functionality that's there.
I think we could do that on
Uh,
the UI layer, right? Just some sort of data template that strips out the first X characters from this string.
yeah, we could at least do that much. What do we want to keep here? Or actually, let's try this. So um, we have that helper. What does
Yeah,
that look like if we write that out to a string? Is it?
it's
Uh,
under
let's try here first. Column. And then what's that actually giving me proper auto completion for that? Is Copilot being helpful today? Grid column. I saw it come up and then I ignored it. So yeah, we do. Okay, I just copied the last line there. Oh, it went away again. Like I'm not touching anything. It suggested something and then just auto completed it without letting me select what it was. That was interesting. Okay. So grid column, let's copy the topic. And then instead of closing that off, well,
And under message utilities is the function to change that long topic into a readable.
Oh, I see what it's doing. That is not right. No, I don't want to accept that.
Is this a template column or a regular column with the view template?
I was going to do a template column. Let's make sure I've got that right. That doesn't look right. Then Copilot's suggesting a bunch of stuff that I don't think is valid at all. Let's see, templates. We want a row temp or a column template, right? Let's see, templates. Footer. Once.
Yeah, that first one, right? It's probably the image column.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just template. And then we open up.
And the context is the whole row. Okay, that's perfect.
Open our template that way. We don't have an article. We have a an MQTT data item, and then we can exit the template here. And this is where our stuff goes. I got to remember how to turn that Git Copilot suggestion autocomplete thing off. I think that's the part. Like I've been researching this, Lance. I don't know if you used GitHub Copilot at all, but
I turn it off for that exact reason. Yep.
So I think people are getting giving it a bad reputation though. And they're like, okay, GitHub Copilot is in my way all the time. You could turn that one specific feature of it off, and there's a lot of other places it comes in handy, like the chat window and stuff. So you need to go in and like enable completions for raise. There it is. Just turn that off and you're fine. But it doesn't mean GitHub Copilot as a whole is garbage. And I keep seeing like these articles coming out that are like developers don't like GitHub Copilot and they've tried it for 30 days and this is what they think. And like that's the main gripe is like it keeps generating all this code that you don't want. Turn that off. Use this. I don't have the window over there anymore. I just refreshed my Visual Studio. Use the alt / instead and be specific about what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Don't try to get it to generate a whole application. Everybody's like, oh, it generated like, 300 lines of code I had to go through. You're asking it for too much, folks.
Where I find it the most useful is when I'm writing repetitive stuff, it accurately predicts what I want to type next based on the last 3 or 4 lines that I've done.
Yeah, and it might work better outside of Razor. Like I just turned it off specifically for Razor here, so you can leave it on for C#. It's probably a lot better at C# than
that's where I use
things.
it. I haven't tried it in YAML.
This is another theory I have. So being a Blazor fan, and we're on a Blazor show, it's probably not the most flattering thing to say, but I have a feeling like you're going to get better AGI stuff on or generative AI stuff on like React code because there's a bigger database for it to train from because there's more React code on the web than like I'd say PHP is probably the top, right?
Yeah.
and then you're going to hit like React code. So us Blazor devs think the AI part of it might be not our strongest suit.
Right,
But
perfect. You said
anyhow,
it exactly. It's great at jQuery because that's just about in every forum on the planet.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's the downside, I think, to this AI stuff. Is it's going to be really good at keeping old tech relevant. All right. So
It should be
MQTT
topic, I think.
value. Okay, topic.
Yeah. And then we want to convert that to a human readable string, which is in a helper class. I think I moved it to message utilities underneath the
Okay,
models folder.
so do we call it statically? Is that how it works?
It is a static method, yeah.
So we got some kind of helper.
Message utilities dot to topic name or get topic name. So I forget which one it is, but we'll know because it accepts the string. Yeah.
Yeah, this one takes a string.
Yeah. Then that's the one that
Is
will be a
topic
little more
nullable?
readable.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's a nullable string. I'm
So
not
we
sure
get
I have the
topic
parameter
name.
set as a null. We might need to check for the whole MQTT item and topic. Oh no, that looks okay now, right?
It's
Can't
still
tell.
got an underscore. It doesn't like that. This is one where, let's see, MQTT item I think is safe, but we need to.
Yeah,
Nope,
doesn't do
it's
that.
got both. There
Oh,
we go.
so how do we display this now in a template column? We have a variable topic, but how do we render that value?
So we just throw this one. The template field here, I think we can just use at topic. And then it's coming back as an enum, right? So we have to do, well,
Yeah,
Razor is going to toString it automatically. We don't explicitly have to write that out, but let's see what we get. We might have to put another helper in there that does like put spaces in or something to make
yeah,
it
we'll have to
human
remove the
readable.
underscore. But it's closer to being human readable than the entire raw topic.
Yeah, that looks a lot better. So do you have any tricks for converting
What we can
spaces and
do is just
underscores?
do a string replace underscore with the space. So
That'll
right now we
that'll fix this, but it won't fix the camel case.
oh oh I have a helper method somewhere that does that.
I was gonna say you
Oh,
probably do,
try
don't
it
you?
with Copilot, GitHub Copilot. Be like
Oh, yeah,
put
let's try it.
spaces.
Let's try it. So let's do control. Let's highlight. Let's give it a little more context. Let's highlight that. Control or alt, sorry, or alt slash. Um, so convert the enum string that is camel case to have spaces between each text value where the text starts with a capital letter. Does that sound about what we're trying to do?
Yeah, and if it's tricky, we can remove enum from the definition and just ask how to split a string.
Yeah, I guess it's just a string at that point.
Yeah.
Took a second, but oh, it threw a
There it
regex at us.
is.
I don't think we want to throw the using statement directly in line here.
But the regex replace, we could probably just take that and put topic instead of input, we put topic dot to string. Exactly that part. Yeah.
Now we have two problems. Wow, we don't need all that. Regex replace. Perfect.
I think does it automatically two-string it in there? That probably not.
Yeah, but if we have to write it to the UI with an @ symbol. Let's see if that.
No, I mean the topic parameter. So in the first parameter, do we have to two-string that?
Oh, yeah. Surprised it didn't blow up.
I wonder if regex is
Might be
not
'cause it's running.
resolving.
Yeah, something probably isn't. It says no issues found. Let's see what happens when we run it. Oh wait, I know there's errors just by
Right.
looking at it. We don't have a. Well, no, because that's Razor code. We don't need that. Let's see. It's complaining about a delegate now.
Component. It's not even the same class.
Regex
That's
does not
why.
exist.
Yeah.
All right, let's get regex in there. All right, now we've got errors. All right, this is better.
Oh, two-string doesn't have parentheses.
Nice catch. Yeah, that was it. Let's try to build that. That worked. Let's see what we get out of this.
It's doing camel case instead of Pascal case, but it should give us the same result.
Look
Very
at that.
nice.
Right.
Now we just need to do a replace. I don't remember my regex that well to change the underscore, but what we can do, since it's already adding the space, we can just string. It's not called strip.
Wonder if we could just do this again.
And we can say and remove underscore. Napalm, that's great news that the API tile for your maps turned out good.
Oh, it suggested the replace.
There we go. Yeah.
Now I think the replace actually needs to go first because right here.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is this is going to add a space, and then it's going to so you'll have a double space basically. So I think that would be an issue. Kind of saw it when it rendered out the first time. If we were to go in and replace that, it might throw it off. Let's see what it does. Yeah,
That's
that looks better.
fantastic. Look at that.
That looks better. We should be able to filter on this. Let's see what this actually. Let's make sure this still works. No, see, okay, that doesn't work because again, the filter descriptors don't work for
It's not a property.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I need to look into the docs and remember how to do this because
We
yeah,
can tell the filter
actually,
descriptor. We can programmatically add a filter descriptor that uses the other property for this
yeah,
column.
but we can't use the we couldn't use the text value that we're using. That's not going to work because the text here, like if I say back
That's
to
not going to match because there's no underscores.
right.
Is that okay?
Matter of fact, did it do that or did I do
What
that?
did it just put it in both?
That's what I was saying. Did I do that? I hit this. Yeah, it put it in both because they're both the same field.
Okay.
See, they're both relying on topic.
Yeah.
So it is essentially backing it with the topic field, but
Well,
it can't effectively query that. So it is querying the text that we put in on that field, on that topic, but the database doesn't
no.
understand what that is because it's not being
Yeah.
converted back to something without the spaces.
What if you just did battery? Like I would think it would be like
That would work, I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
See, that works because what it's actually searching on is this.
Yeah.
I forgot. So when we search in this box, it's searching on the data here. It doesn't care what this is. None of that matters.
Yeah.
So that would be confusing for the user. So we'd have to come up with another search mechanic for that. That's why I wish I could have got it to work. I didn't get a chance to look into it on the last show. There's another filtering thing on here, but I don't know if you can use it with the manual data operations. But there's a filter type. Filter menu type of checkbox list. I wish that would work here because it's such a nice user experience compared to the fuzzy search boxes.
That would work out the best because there's only about 12 distinct values. So you'd only have 12 checkboxes.
Regex does not exist in the current context again.
I think you get the wrong type on the field.
Is it editor type? No, that's filter.
Filter editor thing.
Menu. Nope. Menu type. But it wasn't working. I don't know if it's because of the manual operations or what. I need to go back to grid school.
But did you even put it in that one? You put it in that one.
Did I put it in the wrong one? They're all the same. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they're valid. It's on the topic. I don't know if they're valid on.
Well, I'll put it on the previous column. Put it on the other topic column and see if it works.
But I think it's the put on all of them. I think it's the read operation we're using doesn't support it, so it just overrides it. It has to be the in-memory because it has to query more, I think, to get that data.
Query each distinct value to create that checkbox list.
Yeah, so you can't use it on big stuff. So it'd probably bog down your grid. I'll have to look into that one.
That does sound like a good thing to put the wraps on this for the next episode or two. Has some nice custom filtering in there.
Dude, I need to turn this thing off, dude. This is such a performance hog.
And I don't know if you, I wanted to ask if we should put a cherry on top with maybe doing some CI/CD on this and building it as a container. And then anyone can use this app.
You'll have to drive for that one. I have no idea what any of that stuff is. I do see some stuff we could clean up from a just a front-end dev perspective here. Like we've got some, well, that doesn't do anything. That's just empty. But yeah, if you want to do a CI/CD show, I'd love to sit and watch you do it. So I could learn some of that stuff. Are we using any of these containers anymore on this page?
I think I copied that in there straight from the demo. So I don't even know if that's being called.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff can go. And then on home, I saw some more of these. So this one.
That was when I asked you about how to center the gauge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the gauge tile is using that.
So there's a couple ways we can do that without having to put that tag down there. First thing I would do is maybe move it to a code behind or put it in. Since it's kind of a generic utility thing, I'd probably take it and drop it in the app.css file.
That's perfect. You don't imagine it affecting anything else that uses that word centered. Or we can change the name of it, right?
Where did that go? There it is. So we could take it there. I don't like putting CSS classes in, and I know you're just trying to get like the proof of concept done.
Yeah.
But I don't like leaving them in there. I'll do the same thing when I'm working on something. I might throw it in there just to get it finished. But I
What
don't
about
like
the
leaving them in
JavaScript?
components because say you extract this component out and put it in something that's reused multiple times on one page, then this
Mhm.
style gets emitted like 3, 4, 5 times. And then it also makes it hard to find. So you can either do that or you can create a CSS file that is scoped directly to the component and put it in there. If it was something more specific to home.razor, not able to be used anywhere else, you could just create a home.css or razor.css file, and it would nest under with this one. So you'd
That's
have
pretty
3
cool.
files that belong to each other that make up the component. But this is a very generic thing. I'd stick it here. And then also we're using Telerik UI for Blazor. So there is already a utility for that. That would be
But before we get to that part, what about the script? Should we move the script tag for the label somewhere else? Is that a
let's
problem
see.
when it repeats?
If we took this, we might want to take the chart, maybe even just put those in components. That would be a way to clean this up, but it might be a little bit too much for today. We've got a lot of markup here. I'd start bringing these components out and making domain specific components out of them. So I would have like a battery level history chart component and just take this whole chunk of code out and stick it in there. And then maybe put that in it.
That makes sense.
Um, with you don't see these too often. I'd probably just leave it as it is because I think it's just going to be used on that one chart component unless you're like repeating those a bunch. I'd put it in a JavaScript file and reference it that way. But I don't want to break the code that's working.
Right.
So, and I think we can scope those JavaScript files too in the next version of Blazor. I think they added that functionality, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see. I don't have my extension on. I have to re-enable it for this new one. But I think you can just add a home.razor.js file in .NET 9, if I remember right. I'll have to look that one up too, double check. But I would just bring these all into their own components. But let's see, that was the which one was being centered?
The arc gauge for the battery level. It's the second tile. That's more towards the top. Yeah, there we go.
That
That
one.
one. Yep.
So the class is centered. We have this in go to the Kendo stuff that comes with Telerik UI for Blazor has some utility classes built in. And this is something that's like Tailwind, I guess you could say. So you could do, let's see, where is this under spacing? It's under utilities, I know that. Flex, direction, and wrap. Should be a center one in here somewhere.
I saw align content. Is that the one? It's
Oh,
about two
where was
thirds
the
of the way
line?
down on the left. A little
Yeah,
more.
line
Yeah.
items.
And then align content or align cell.
Stretch, center. Okay, align items, center. So these, that says grid. Should be a flex content. I personally like writing the CSS myself, this is one way you can do it. These are essentially just little like utilities around that same CSS, but it was 3 lines of CSS. So, in my opinion, I just keep it the way it is. I just wanted to
Yeah.
show like it is possible to do it this way as well. See, this is you wrote code as like kflex1. It all maps kind of to that same bit there. It does a display flex, justify content center, align center. So it'd be in this somewhere. And you could just write it out that way. It'd be like kflex, something align, something center, and it would do the same thing. So you could reuse these, or you could just do what you did. And I would put it here. So we'll leave that there.
Well, I mean, it's the advantage of using a design system is if you were building out a real app and you need that in multiple places, I would prefer to use the design systems variant instead of a one-off.
One thing I can give credit to this is it makes documentation easier, and it makes copying and pasting snippets easier. So, for example, if you were using our UI templates, this is how they're built, and you can see if I'm logged in, be able to see this. There, that logged me in. So what this does well, and I think this is why Tailwind was always so well documented, is it makes it easy to document. And when you look at the code for one of these, you can just copy this one chunk of code and paste it directly into HTML, and it works. And if they were broken up into specific, CSS pieces, you'd have the HTML tab and a CSS tab, and you'd have to copy 2 things. And then where do you put the second thing? Because the CSS has to go somewhere. And if you put it in the wrong order, then cascading takes effect and it doesn't work right. So this just makes the documentation portion of it that much easier. Like I can just come in here, hit copy, paste it, and I'm done. Rather than what I just said, like having to unpack where
Yeah.
everything's supposed to go, it not work right, and then people get frustrated and then they blame CSS. So there is an upside to this whole what do they call it? Atomic CSS like utility thing. I get it, folks. If you don't know CSS well, it's very helpful and it's easy to make these systems where you can copy and paste things in and out, share code snippets and stuff. It does have some utility there. All right, so we moved that out. What else were we looking at in here? Maybe doing some components. Do we want to like maybe do one and see how this whole thing would go?
Yeah. On the component, we would just surface a property, right? Or in Blazor, it's called a parameter,
Yeah,
public parameter, and then we bind to that.
I'm going to look for my extension and install it. Not
Oh, it's from
mine, but
Jimmy.
extension I like. I
Yeah.
called it mine, but it's written by Jimmy Ingstrom. I claim it as my own as part of my toolkit that I put in my IDE. So we'll install that. I thought they fixed this whole Visual Studio needing to restart every time we install a thing. Was that
It
not something that was in
no.
the cards? I could have swore that was
Some
coming.
extensions can do it, but it depends on where the registry is. Because Visual Studio has a components registry, it has to read when it boots out.
Yeah,
Part of it.
yet Visual Studio Code can do it just fine.
Yeah.
And ran. But I have an extension in Visual Studio right now that I installed that gives me this presentation mode. Have you seen that one?
No.
So it's basically just a little utility that leverages a feature that Visual Studio already has, that it can do multiple profiles. And normally you'd have to launch those profiles from a command line, but this is an extension that surfaces it on menu. So it creates a profile called presentation mode and then puts it in the menu, so you can just launch it from the taskbar instead of having to go to the command line and type in whatever the shell thing is slash the command for the alternate
Yeah.
profile and then the name of the profile. So this is just a shortcut for that. And then when you do it the first time, it gives you a fresh, clean registry for Visual Studio. So you lose all of your extensions and all of that, and it's basically a paved copy. And then you set it up for how you like to do presentations. Maybe you're doing a stand-up at work, or you're live streaming, or you're presenting at a conference. And then you go in and set all your fonts nice and big and stuff like that. And it gives
But the
you
important thing is it
clean.
remembers that demo user's settings. So every
Yeah,
time it launches, that's awesome.
exactly. So if I were to launch the normal one, I'd get nice small fonts so I can work on a big 4K screen and have lots of real estate. But for streaming, that doesn't work, and I want to be able to launch it with big fonts and not have to go through, because there's like 15, 20 different settings you have to go through to make it look like this.
Yeah.
So that's a thing. It's a nice tip. So let's try to grab let's do the arc gauge one that you had. It was fairly simple.
It's the
Find it.
second tile. Or you
And
want
the fact that I can't find stuff is a good reason that we should be doing this. So we've got the arc gauge, and it also has, there's two components in it. We'll just take the one. So right now we'll just take the gauge.
but isn't the advantage of having a component is that you have multiple components in it that become one? So we should probably grab both of those and make it into a battery.
Yeah, we can
Something.
do that. That's
Yeah.
a good point. So what I like to do when I organize a project is I would, we have Telerik UI for Blazor, so that's going to eliminate a lot of the generic component thing. So if I have a component that's not part of that, Telerik library, I might have a folder that's called generic components, and it would be things that don't have a domain specific thing attached to them. And then I might have another component folder that has domain specific components to them. So take, for example, the data grid. It has generic, it'll take a list of any any item. That would be a generic component. Doesn't have a domain specific purpose. But I might have a version of that grid that is binding to an MQTT data item. So I might have a MQTT data item grid, and I would have a pre-configured grid component that specifically takes a list of MQTT item. So I kind of separate my stuff that way. So that's what we're kind of doing with this. So we'll take this whole
So
thing
that
here.
would go right into the dashboard components folder you already created, right?
Exactly.
Or
So let's make sure we have dashboard components highlighted. And then now that we have um, that plugin, you get a menu that says extract component. So I can do extract component, and then we give it a component name. It's battery
stats.
display, something display, stats display.
I would say we wanted to know that this is for live data and not historical. So
Okay.
battery live display or something
Uh,
that works.
let's see. It's a gauge, and what else in here? Some text stuff.
It's a radial gauge and a horizontal gauge.
Okay. Just say gauges, live gauges. Boom. And then that just got transferred into a component file. Where did it put it? It's under component pages. Want to move it. This is the tricky part. If I move it, sometimes the compiler gets really unhappy. Really unhappy. Right now, it's not highlighting syntax. There we go.
But there's
All
no
right.
namespace on it yet.
Yeah, we don't have any of the namespaces in.
Mm.
So let's see. We need to copy the code over next. So the code is still in history, or nope, not in history. It is in home.razor. We've got battery percentage. Is that this one?
That's one of them. Yeah.
Let's do a side by side. So we have battery charge value. So we need still did this wrong. do you move? This is the first time I've really used the, no, that's not what I wanted. Tab group. How do you move these around with the, there we go. I think that did it, right? I usually have the tabs up top. It's a little bit easier
Yeah.
to work
So
with.
we can do battery ref or let's do the variables first or the chart reference first. What should we do?
So we need a code block. And then I'd just start top to bottom. Battery level percentage gauge. Battery
18.
percentage level gauge. Thank
Yeah.
you. Move that guy over. And then we've got battery charge value.
It's not a ref, so it's going to be down in the variables group. Right there somewhere. Yep.
That over. Battery level. Battery level gauge. It's up here. Battery linear gauge, battery level gauge. Oh my gosh. Go. Battery power value. That over. There we go. All the angriness stopped. We're gonna have some on this side though.
Yeah.
Because we're using battery power value in multiple places, so we don't want to move those. Let's put those back. I didn't realize we were doing that.
What we can do is expose them as properties, as parameters, right?
Is our code behind? Yeah, we don't have it open. There it is. Okay, we do have it open. I thought we had it open. Put those back. Save that. All right, these two, however, why does that 5 errors? Let's try building. Trying to figure out where all the errors are coming from. There should be 2.
Yeah, there's 2 on both.
2, you open it, it says 4. The gauges.
Yeah, because you cut and paste the 2 variables back and didn't leave it in the component. But we want those to become properties now. So, right? Is that how
Yeah,
you
they also need to exist here.
Yeah.
But as properties, like you said. So we need to make, let's see, these are going to remain private. I'll just go ahead and mark them as private just so we know for sure. And then these will be public. And then we'll do a parameter on these because we need to expose these. And then it's mad because these aren't properties, right? Yeah. Okay. So those get properties.
Well, let
And
me ask you something now, right? Is
Mhm.
how does the binding work between this? If externally the value comes into here, is it automatically set to where it's being used in the razor? Or do we
No,
need
we
to expand the setter?
yeah, we need to go tell it where to use that. So we need to go back to history.razor. Again, how do I move that? I guess.
It's not in history, it's in home.
Oh, yeah,
Mm,
I keep doing that.
or
They both
main.
start with H, so there we go. Home.razor, and then we took the component from, where's the line we
And the
took it out of?
second tile.
Right there.
Yep.
Battery live gauges, and now we have properties.
Nice.
So make that capital because it's a property now. And this is where the data binding is going to happen. Battery power
So the
now we're
charge is
applying
the
that.
level percentage. Yeah, that's right. Power value and battery charge.
Oops, that was charge. Now we get to move those into properties, and we just eliminated all that code from here. So that tidied up 50 lines of code. But let's see.
You change
This
the
needs to get
capitalization. Yeah.
capital, and this ref. We were using that ref for a size change, probably. Is that true? Save that. Need to go over to home, Razor CS.
Yeah, I can see the error a
Should
little more
be
down. Right there, yeah.
right here is the problem. So this item resize event, we need to do here. We need to do a public.
So you're exposing it as its own refresh method that we'll call.
Yeah. So it needs to be a.
It can be a void, or does it have to be
I
async?
think it just needs to be a void because there's nothing async actually happening in those lines. So, oops, let's do fresh to match this.
Yeah.
And then we should be able to move that and that here, right? But
That needs a ref now
we
too,
need
though.
to do one there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you were right at bundling those two things together because then we can just tackle this all at once. I need to find that line again. There we go. So we need to at ref equals battery gauges. That. And then we need
Does
to
it
make
need
that property.
quotes?
Oops. I keep forgetting we split these up. There we go. It. Jump back over to markup. Losing this. So it figured out we wanted the instance, not the type. And then that's good.
Do
And
we?
refresh.
When do you make the decision to use quotes or not? Is that if it's going to be a string or like the ref?
Yeah.
You said ref equals this, but it was just the actual field.
What's this thing called? Battery gauges. Let's make the API look the same. All right. In regards to the quotes question, so Blazor will do its best to try to do type inference. So
Like for example, right there
if
in line 20, I
yeah.
used quotes.
So quotes are acceptable, but optional. You could take the quotes out. The @ symbol is also optional. And quotes with the @ symbol is also valid and optional.
That's good to know because I see it in different ways and they're all the same thing. Okay.
So some people will put the @ symbol everywhere out of habit. And the reason for that is because if there is a string property, I don't know if we have something that's got a old-fashioned string property on it.
But yeah, it could be ambiguous between a string or the reference.
Right. And it will choose the string every time.
Oh,
So
That's,
yeah, let's find one that's got a simple string value on it. And I will show you what I mean. See, icons and object. Data, that one's not. If I could find something that's like a title or header text. So header text is a good one. So if we wanted the header text to be bound to something like we had a property named battery,
yeah,
right? This wouldn't know if this was a string or a property. It doesn't really care because it's going to say, oh, we have a valid string here. Let's use that. If we wanted to specify that this is a battery property, we'd have to use the @ symbol. So you could get a syntactical error that doesn't, it's not a true error, but it's not functioning. It's a bug
yeah,
because it's the static word battery. Like a good example of this was like maybe we're doing some localization and I have like battery dot local. Like I meant to bind to some localization thing here and I didn't put the @ symbol. So like we go back to our app, we're going to see the literal string that's trying to get the
yeah,
uh, the index of this thing that does that's in our app somewhere, and it's just displaying this instead. So it's not the end of the world, but it's like users are going to go, this is broken.
yeah.
So some people will get in the habit of putting the @ symbols just so you don't run into these
That makes sense.
every time. Like if it doesn't have an @ symbol, then it's a string. But that's not like how Blazor works. It will figure it out on its own. You see all of these, like these are booleans, even though they're wrapped in quotes.
Yeah,
And then these are delegates, even though they're wrapped in quotes and they don't have @ symbols in front of them. It's all style choice. There we go. So we have a
look at that.
singular component now. And I would do that for all of these, just so it's broken down into from that's pretty big. 196 lines. This will probably come down to like 20, I would imagine, something like that, because you're just going to essentially have um, collapse
It's components all the way down.
content. Yeah, content, content.
Yeah,
This is how it would look when you're done. There, you'd be able to see it pretty much in
yeah,
one scroll. And you could also do, the toolbar, the whole toolbar. This is what I was saying. Like we have a generic toolbar, but we could abstract this out and say this is the dashboard toolbar or something like that, power panel dashboard toolbar. And that is a specific toolbar. We know where it's being used. You just got to make sure you don't play a game of chasing your tail with like the fully abstracted, then back. You know what I
yeah.
mean? You keep going and re-abstracting things out. Like, oh, that could have been generic. No, just do it the one time. So you could essentially take that down. Um, and that's probably where I'd stop with it. That would be pretty organized. You've got the toolbar and then you've got the layout. You could technically do the whole layout too, but then at that point, like the page becomes a little redundant, right?
Yeah.
You have a title, a toolbar, and then a tile layout. Then you end up going into a component to edit the tile layout. That might be a little too far. I'd probably do there. That's probably good.
And conceptually, that makes sense. These are the components that are being used in the tile layout, and they exist there. But I
Yeah.
would still want to see the tile layout at the parent level.
Yep.
Yep.
I
All right.
generally do all my data fetching in the rootmost layer, and let the properties get bound downward. So I would have the one, set of functions to call out to the database or whatever here,
Yep.
and not have them on. I wouldn't make each individual component responsible for making data calls. That would get messy. Data binding starts to cross over boundaries and stuff. It gets weird. It's a good point, and we will stop here and we'll tidy some things up for next week. Take care, folks.
Bye.